Nestled in the mountains of eastern Pennsylvania, approximately 90 miles northwest of Philadelphia, the historic borough of Jim Thorpe is often called the Switzerland of America for its breathtaking scenery, Victorian architecture, and picturesque mountain setting. Known as the gateway to the Pocono Mountains, Jim Thorpe welcomes visitors from around the world seeking outdoor adventure, rich history, and small-town charm. Originally known as Mauch Chunk, a name derived from a Native American phrase meaning Bear Mountain, the town rose to prominence during the anthracite coal boom of the 19th century and became one of the most important railroad and industrial centers in Pennsylvania. In 1954, Mauch Chunk merged with the neighboring community of East Mauch Chunk and was renamed Jim Thorpe in honor of the legendary Native American athlete and Olympic champion whose remains were brought here following a dispute over his burial place. The town prospered through the wealth generated by coal, transportation, leading to the construction of magnificent Victorian homes, hotels, churches, and public buildings. Today, Jim Thorpe attracts visitors from across the country who come to experience its rich history, scenic beauty, and legendary landmarks, including the Old Jail Museum, the Asa Packer Mansion, and the Harry Packer Mansion. But beneath the charm of this historic mountain town lies a darker side of its past. Stories of crime, tragedy, unexplained encounters, and reports of paranormal activity that continue to intrigue visitors and investigators alike. Join me as we explore the history, legends, and reported hauntings of some of Jim Thorpe's most iconic locations. But Jim Thorpe's history is more than grand mansions and coal wealth. Some of its most enduring stories are tied to figures whose legacies remain controversial to this day. One such figure was General Charles Albright, the lead prosecutor in the infamous Molly Maguire's trials of the 1870s. Albright played a key role in the prosecution of men accused of violence and murder in Pennsylvania's coal region. His former residence still stands in Jim Thorpe, and when it operated as a restaurant, workers and visitors reported unexplained footsteps, the sound of marching boots, and even sightings of an apparition believed by some to be Albright himself. The historic Hotel Switzerland, established in 1830, it is recognized as the oldest commercial building still operating in the town today. For nearly 2 centuries, travelers, railroad workers, merchants, and tourists have passed through its doors. It is claimed a phantom dog haunts the building. The inn at Jim Thorpe has welcomed guests since 1849. Along with its rich history come stories of the unexplained. Guests and staff have reported hearing footsteps in empty hallways, unexplained voices, doors opening and closing on their own, and sightings of shadowy figures. Some believe the inn's long history may have left behind more than just memories. Towering above the historic town of Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, stands the magnificent Asa Packer Mansion, one of the finest preserved Victorian homes in America. Completed in 1861, after 2 years of construction, the mansion cost approximately $14,000 to build. The residence spans an impressive 11,000 square feet and contains 18 rooms, 3 hallways, and 3 floors, offering visitors a remarkable glimpse into the life of one of Pennsylvania's most influential families. The mansion was built for Asa Packer, a businessman, a philanthropist, railroad pioneer, and founder of Lehigh University. Through his leadership of the Lehigh Valley Railroad, Packer amassed a fortune transporting anthracite coal throughout the region. At one point, his railroad system operated nearly 1,000 trains dedicated to hauling coal, helping fuel factories, homes, and industries across the nation. Following Asa Packer's death in 1879, the mansion remained in the family, eventually passing to his daughter, Mary Packer Cummings. Mary inherited the family fortune worth $54 million and became the wealthiest woman in the United States, second in the world just behind Queen Victoria of England. Mary's legacy continues to shape the mansion's story today. Upon her death, she left the residence and its contents to the town of Mock Chunk, the community now known as Jim Thorpe. Because of her generosity, the original furniture, artwork, and family possessions remain inside the mansion today. One of the more fascinating stories connected to Mary involves the RMS Titanic. Historical accounts state that Mary possessed a ticket for passage aboard the Titanic. Choosing instead to remain in England with a friend, she reportedly transferred the ticket to Charlotte Appleton, who ultimately survived the disaster when the Titanic sank in April 1912. After Mary's death, the mansion sat largely untouched for approximately 40 years. Remarkably, despite decades of vacancy, there were no reports of vandalism, theft, or break-ins. In the 1950s, members of the local Lions Club undertook efforts to restore and preserve the property, preparing it to receive visitors and ensuring that the mansion's history would be protected for future generations. Although photography and video recording were not permitted inside the mansion, during my tour, I was fortunate enough to experience the interior firsthand. While numerous photographs of the home can be found online, they simply do not do justice to the incredible beauty of the mansion. The craftsmanship displayed throughout the residence is truly remarkable. Intricate woodwork, detailed carvings, and the preservation of the home's original features make it feel as though you've stepped directly back into the Victorian era. The main staircase at the instruction of Asa Packer was constructed with no nails but only pegs. One particularly fascinating artifact on display is a newspaper article commemorating Asa and Sarah Packer's 50th wedding anniversary. What makes this article fascinating is that the lettering was printed in actual gold. At the time, local residents would have received their own copies featuring the same gold lettering, but very few copies have survived to the present day. Seeing one of these rare newspapers provides a unique glimpse into how highly respected and celebrated the Packer family was within the community. Today, the mansion is operated by the town of Jim Thorpe and remains one of the area's most treasured historic landmarks. While our tour guide Frank told us he had never personally experienced anything he considered paranormal, he did share stories from another guide who conducts tours while dressed in period-specific Victorian clothing. According to Frank, this guide reported feeling an unseen force gently pushing against her back while standing on a stepladder, cleaning, almost as if someone was attempting to keep her from falling. On another occasion, she reportedly felt a tug on her hair, despite no one being nearby. Whether these experiences can be explained or remain a mystery is left to the individual visitor to decide. What is certain, however, is that the Asa Packer Mansion remains one of Jim Thorpe's most treasured landmarks, a place where history, preservation, and local legend continue to coexist under one remarkable Victorian roof. Just a short distance from the Asa Packer Mansion stands another of Jim Thorpe's most recognizable landmarks, the Harry Packer Mansion. Before becoming a family residence, the building reportedly served as office space connected to the railroad industry that helped drive the region's economy. Recognizing its potential, Asa Packer purchased the structure and extensively remodeled the interior as a home for his son Harry Packer. Built in 1874, the mansion would become one of the most distinctive homes in Jim Thorpe. While the Asa Packer Mansion reflects a more traditional Victorian style, the Harry Packer Mansion was designed with a striking Gothic appearance that immediately sets it apart from the surrounding architecture. Its steep roof lines, dark stone exterior, ornate woodwork, and castle-like appearance have made it one of the most photographed buildings in town. Today, the mansion operates as a private bed and breakfast, and unlike the Asa Packer Mansion, regular public tours are not offered. Guests staying at the property have the unique opportunity to experience the historic residence firsthand. The mansion has gained attention not only for its architecture, but also for its connection to popular culture. According to local tradition, the home is said to have served as inspiration for Disney's Haunted Mansion attraction. While this claim has been debated over the years, it remains one of the most enduring stories associated with the property and has contributed to its reputation as one of the most intriguing buildings in town. Adding to that reputation are reports of paranormal activity. Over the years, guests and staff have described unexplained footsteps, mysterious noises, shadowy figures, and other unusual occurrences within the mansion. One of the most frequently repeated stories involves the apparition of a young girl believed by some to be named Hazel. Witnesses have claimed to see a female child dressed in Victorian-era clothing, wandering through the mansion, or appearing briefly in hallways and rooms. According to local accounts, the child is sometimes seen playing with a small red ball, before mysteriously disappearing from sight. As with many historic properties, there is no way to verify such claims, and they remain part of the folklore surrounding the mansion. Whether viewed as an architectural masterpiece, a historic family residence, or a source of local ghost stories, the Harry Packer Mansion remains one of Jim Thorpe's most fascinating landmarks and a lasting reminder of the Packer family's influence on the region. Standing in the heart of Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, the Old Jail Museum remains one of the most fascinating and controversial historic sites in the region. Built in 1871, the imposing stone structure served as the Carbon County Jail for more than a century. Operating from 1871 until 1995, the jail was designed as a self-contained correctional facility and contains 72 rooms, including 28 standard cells, 16 dungeon cells, and the original warden's apartment. Unlike modern prisons, the jail's warden and his family lived on the property. The warden's residence was located within the jail complex itself, allowing him to oversee inmates while maintaining a home for his family. Visitors touring the jail today can still see portions of the former living quarters and gain a unique understanding of daily life inside a 19th century correctional facility. However, the old jail is most famous for its connection to one of Pennsylvania's most debated chapters of labor history, the Molly Maguires. To understand the significance of the old jail, it's important to understand the events that led to one of Pennsylvania's most controversial trials. The prosecution of the accused Molly Maguires was led by General Charles Albright, a former Civil War officer and prominent attorney. According to local accounts and historical interpretations, Albright often appeared in court wearing his Civil War uniform and carrying his sword, creating an imposing presence before the jury and spectators. The trials themselves have remained controversial for nearly 150 years. During the introductory presentation at the Old Jail Museum, visitors are told that some members of the jury reportedly did not speak or understand English fluently. Combined with questions surrounding witness testimony, labor tensions, and the influence of powerful coal interest, these circumstances have led many historians to debate whether the accused men received a truly fair trial. Those questions continue to fuel discussion today and have become a major part of the legacy surrounding both the Molly Maguires and the Old Jail Museum. The Molly Maguires were a secretive organization of Irish mine workers, allegedly active within the anthracite coal regions of Pennsylvania during the 19th century. Historians continue to debate the group's true nature. Some view them as violent criminals responsible for intimidation, assaults, and murders, while others believe they were labor activists and immigrants who became targets of powerful coal companies seeking to suppress worker resistance. Following a lengthy investigation, testimony from Pinkerton detective James McParland, an Irishman himself, and a series of highly controversial trials, several men accused of being Molly Maguires were convicted and sentenced to death. On June 21, 1877, a day remembered throughout Pennsylvania history as the Day of the Rope, 4 accused Molly Maguires were hanged inside the old jail. Their executions became part of one of the largest mass executions in the history of the Commonwealth and remain the subject of historical debate to this day. Visitors touring the jail today will encounter a gallows display representing where the executions took place. It is important to note that the gallows currently on display are not the original gallows used during the hangings. The structure is a carefully researched reproduction created from historical photographs and records to help visitors visualize the events that occurred here. Perhaps the most famous artifact inside the jail is the mysterious handprint associated with one of the condemned Molly Maguires. Many published accounts identify the handprint as belonging to Alexander Campbell. According to the legend, Campbell maintained his innocence until the very end. Before his execution, he pressed his hand against the wall of his cell and proclaimed that the mark would remain forever as evidence of his innocence. However, during our tour, our guide shared a different version of the story. According to the information presented during the tour, the handprint is believed to have been left by Thomas Fisher in cell number 17, shortly before his execution. Like Campbell, Fisher was one of the men convicted during the Molly Maguire trials and executed on June 21, 1877. Regardless of which version is correct, the mystery surrounding the handprint remains one of the most enduring legends of the old jail. Over the years, jail staff reportedly attempted to remove the mark through cleaning, scrubbing, painting, and other restoration efforts. Yet the handprint continued to reappear, fueling speculation and debate among visitors and historians alike. Today, the handprint remains visible within the jail and continues to attract visitors from around the world. Photography and video recording of the famous handprint are not permitted by the museum due to trademark restrictions. The image currently shown on screen is an AI-generated artistic rendering inspired by the legend associated with the handprint. It is not a photograph or exact reproduction of the original mark. The generated image is intended only to help viewers visualize the story surrounding the famous handprint that continues to intrigue visitors to the Old Jail Museum in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. It's easy to understand why the small Pennsylvania town continues to captivate visitors from around the world. From the grandeur of the Asa Packer Mansion to the Gothic beauty of the Harry Packer Mansion, and from the haunting history of the Old Jail Museum to the enduring legends of the Molly Maguires, Jim Thorpe offers a unique blend of history, architecture, and mystery. Whether the paranormal stories are fact, folklore, or something in between is ultimately for each visitor to decide. What cannot be denied is the incredible effort made to preserve these historic landmarks and the stories they continue to tell more than a century later. For me, the most memorable part of this trip wasn't just the ghost stories, it was walking through places where history actually happened, standing in rooms where generations lived and worked, and experiencing firsthand the rich heritage that makes Jim Thorpe one of Pennsylvania's most fascinating destinations. As our time in Jim Thorpe came to an end, we experienced a few incidents of our own that we can't fully explain. On my final night at the hotel, I was alone in my room and trying to fall asleep. Around midnight, when I began hearing noises coming from the bathroom area, it sounded as though something was being moved. After investigating, the only possible explanation I could find was the drawstring from the bathroom curtain. However, the air conditioning unit was located in the sleeping area of the room, making that explanation seem less certain. As I was in bed with my eyes closed, my field of vision was completely black. Then I saw a faint, curved white line move from left to right and downward toward my throat, leaving a slight trail behind it. The image on screen is an AI-generated approximation of what I remember seeing. Startled, I immediately opened my eyes and expected to feel pain, but there was none. The room was quiet, and I could find no obvious explanation for what had happened. The following morning, while preparing to leave, I told my wife about the experience. To my surprise, she shared something that had happened during the night in the separate room where she and our daughter were staying. At approximately 2:30 in the morning, she heard what sounded like a two-syllable whisper coming from behind her near the bathroom area. The whisper was loud enough that she immediately turned over to see who or what had made the sound, but there was nothing there. Were these events simply the result of fatigue after a long day of exploring historic locations? Or were they something more? We can't say for certain. What we can say is that these experiences became an unexpected part of our visit and left us with more questions than answers. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and remember that sometimes the most intriguing mysteries are the ones that remain unexplained.